Encryption. And I just wanted to start off and say thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful day here in sunny Buffalo, New York, and today we're going to share with you some things that we've learned through our experience here at MVP in helping our clients and our partners with their security needs and mitigating risks in their business and in their bank account. Critical IT and security protections every business must have in place now. Again, there's me. I am Kevin Kirby from MVP. I have a business degree in marketing and have been working here at the MVP team for just over 6 years with a specialization in healthcare and dental experience. I've worked with over 100 medical offices, and we have at our company specialized in security integration and helping them out. The main presenter for the day, for the next hour, is going to be Encryption as well. So let's talk about what we're going to cover. Basically, there are 4 topics that we're going to dive into today. Number one is the number one security threat to your business that antivirus, firewalls, and other security protocols can't protect against. So we're going to dive into that. The second is the shocking truth about bank fraud that most businesses don't know about and that could literally wipe out your bank account. We're going to show you how to protect against that. Number 3, why firewalls and antivirus software simply aren't enough anymore. You need to do a little more, be more proactive. Finally, mobile phones, mobile devices. As technology evolves, everybody has at least one device that they're carrying around all the time, and usually more than one. So how mobile phones and cloud applications are seriously jeopardizing your organization's security and data protection. And what do you need to do to protect yourself? We're going to help you and show you. So how to avoid being a sitting duck to cyber criminals and to protect everything that you've worked so hard to achieve. Ultimately, that's what we're going to cover. We're going to show you how to not be a target, how to not be a threat, and ultimately help our business partners sleep better at night knowing that their data, that their business, and that their people are secure. All right? Most of you are using some sort of cloud application already. Your employees have mobile devices. Either it's their own or it's managed by you as the company. And the trends show that there's no signs at all of slowing down. So a lot of you are adding these very haphazardly. You're just going and setting up mobile devices. You're setting up different devices on your network, but you're not really securing them. You think they're secure because you might have a password. However, we're going to show you that you're really not secure unless you take a look at these specific features and functions in the next hour. Encryption is the CEO of MVP. He has a BS in electronic engineering, and now it says 15, but I think it's a little more than that right now, years of experience with MVP and with IT in general. He is also the author of a book, Computers Should Just Work. I highly suggest you reach out to us and get a copy of that. As a business owner or executive in your company, it is invaluable to know more about your data and not just entrust it to somebody else. You need to know the questions to ask internally as well, so that you can actually be more educated on what you have. Don't just leave it in someone else's hands. And Encryption also has multiple technical certifications and is a certified IT security consultant.
All right, thanks, Kevin, for this warm welcome. It is a little bit more than 15, but I don't want to date myself, so we'll get started. You know, the biggest danger in security is really not doing anything at all. So success in the context of discussion today is that you might not have been attacked yet, or you might not know that you've been attacked, because only 6% of people attacked are aware of their attack. 94% of people are not aware that they have some kind of vulnerability and something is happening on their network. The CEO of Intel is the one that said success breeds complacency, complacency breeds failure, only the paranoid survive. And I don't want to say you need to be paranoid about your security, but you do. A little bit need to look at every aspect of your security and what you need to do, and really treat it as a must do, not a nice to have. why are we so worried about security? Because the security became a business. It is not just a one guy out of his house trying to basically hack you to get whether being your information. Why do they even want your information? Security is a multi-billion dollars a year business. Hackers that come after you have organizations and offices and HR, and they're actually a full-fledged business, but their business is to crack into and hack into other people's networks and take their information so they can sell that information. So you got to understand that it's more of a cyber ring. It's very sophisticated. It's well funded. It's well organized. Unlike other business, the only thing they're doing is selling your info. So really, it's a true business. So let's talk about the evolution of crime a little bit. In the old days, the cybercrime business was pretty simple. You bought a gun or a knife, you hid in a dark alley, and when someone would walk by, you jump out and say, stick them up and take their money. Startup costs and overhead were very low, and if you didn't get caught, you'd be okay. That's the old days, the old crime waves, if you will. But of course, just like any business owner, any entrepreneur, criminals started thinking, how can I grow my business? So of course, technology answered that question. Trains came along, first waves of technology, if you will, and instead of robbing one person at a time, a robber could rob 200 to 300 people at a time. And robbing trains was far more lucrative catch because people that could afford to actually be on a train could afford they had more money than people that couldn't afford to be on a train. So it became an easier way for robbers to go ahead and get more volume out of their one robbery. And since trains traveled through very remote areas, they didn't have any support or anybody to come stop the robbery from happening. Today, thanks to the advancement in technology and an ever-increasing trend of storing financial and personal information on third-party cloud platforms, the new train, if you will, robberies are cybercrime related. Think about it. If a criminal wanted to rob 100,000 people at once, they couldn't do it the old-fashioned way anymore. Today, all that they need is a hack into a single large platform, and they can use the advanced technology to instantly rob millions of people. And they are, as you can tell by the increasing number of attacks that is happening every day in the news. So look at this graph that we have. Target, JP, has lost 70 million records. JP Morgan, 76 million. Home Depot, 56 million. eBay, 145 million. And the list goes on. These are big companies that have high-end security, and they still get hacked and they get robbed. So why do they get robbed? What happens? Well, it's simple. They get robbed because people are able to sell that info. Remember the JP Morgan credit card hack? Well, it wasn't just one person. It was an organized crime family, if you will, that came in, a small group of people who stole tens of millions, about 80 million personal credit card and 7 million small to medium-sized businesses in one fell swoop. They took all that information, and this is right on the heels of the Target and Home Depot attacks, where 40 million credit cards were stolen, and Target 56 million credit cards from Home Depot were stolen. Think about that. Think about how deep that is and how much information they can get. So why are they doing this? Well, they're doing it because a credit card is worth between $2 to $90 on the black market. They sell that information. iTunes accounts are worth $8. Physical credit cards are worth $190. Card cloners, which are devices that will able to get your card information and put it on a different card, are worth between $200 to $300. Fake ATM cards are worth about $35. Fake ATMs in general, like actual machines, are worth about $35,000. What these will do is take your information, grab all your info, and now they have your PIN number and they have all the information that exists. So anyone can easily buy training tools and services to commit fraud, hacking systems, buying stolen credit cards, setting up fake websites. The FBI and the police don't have enough resources to stop the millions of people trying to get out there, because they don't have to be in this country to do it, right? They could do it from anywhere in the world. And it's important to know that that's the reason why you're getting hacked. They're getting hacked because they're selling your info. A lot of people say, but we're too small. I mean, we don't have that kind of info. Well, I mean, if you have PHI information, you'd have info that they need, because PHI information does include social security numbers, and that's sellable. So people bother with smaller companies because smaller companies don't have the resources to secure the network properly. And like any criminal, they're also lazy. So it's the path of least resistance, if you will. They want to steal from networks that are easy to hack into because they can take your information and leave. 1 in 5 small businesses fall victim to cybercrime each year, and that number is growing. Also, be aware that small businesses are low-hanging fruit for them because they don't believe you are a target. Therefore, you don't do all the security measures that you should, and therefore you're easier to get hacked into.
I want to add one thing real quick is when you think of yourself as being too small, please keep in mind that these larger companies like JP Morgan, Chase, Target, they are large companies that have a huge budget to put into the security measures. So they have all these high-end, very expensive security measures in place, and they're still getting hacked. As a small business, you don't have anything close to these type of securities in place. So if somebody did decide they wanted to hack you, if you came across you would be a very easy pickings for them.
And we're going to show you today how we can stop that. So let's talk about this number, $201. What is this number? Well, this number is the average cost associated with any stolen record according to Funanum Institute, which is Experian. So because of reputation damage, because of loss of clients, because of class action lawsuit and individual lawsuits that will happen when you get hacked because you're responsible for their data, because of legal fees, because of compliance lawsuits, fines and non-compliant fines as well, because of having to replace that data, downtime and loss of productivity. The key point here is just because you're a small business doesn't mean your customers' information is any less valuable to them. What are you doing to be good stewards of their information? And that's the idea of our webinar today, is to show you some techniques to use to become more secure savvy, if you will. There's 82,000 new malware threats are being released every single day. Now think about that number. Think about what it takes to actually secure your network properly. Now, there's tools out there like Sophos or Kaspersky or other malware tools that go out and updates those definitions regularly. And that's the important piece, is you have to make sure that you're updating your systems, your security protocols, your security software, and all the tools regularly. Because if you don't, well, you're missing the point. You're not being as secure as you want to be. And having a firewall and antivirus is just not enough anymore. It's kind of like trying to stop a tank with a squirt gun. We're going to talk about bank fraud as well. So FDIC does not protect you from bank fraud. That's a big misconception. And the bank is not responsible for getting your money back. You're responsible from a security perspective. Because think about it. If your system is unsecure and they were able to access your bank information through your system is the one that did it. The bank is not going to refund that money. We've had some local companies that lost thousands of dollars because of that, because they got hacked. Security is key. Security is more important than anything else that you do in IT because your information is there. So tips for protecting yourself. From a being very paranoid perspective, you can cancel your debit cards. They're the number one way. Bank accounts get compromised. Have a dedicated PC for online banking and don't use that PC for accessing any other websites, email access, social media sites, or for downloading files or applications. I know, again, being a little paranoid, but when you have multiple info, it's multiple ways for criminals to be able to go through. It makes it easy for them. If you have only one dedicated PC that only goes online to do one dedicated function and you turn it off after you're done, they can't really hack you as much. Sign up for email alerts from your bank to whenever withdrawal is over $100 so you're aware of it. Require a signature for any wire transfer. Have your money spread out in multiple accounts to minimize the risk. Some things you can do from a bank perspective that will also allow you to be more protective and more secure. But besides banks, social media. Threat number one security is on Facebook. 600,000 Facebook's accounts are hacked every single day. Think about that. And what do you have your information on Facebook? Just about your life is on Facebook. And maybe not your bank information, but a lot of your information is on Facebook. And this is an example of a fake Facebook message that went out. If you notice that the domain is not facebook.com, it's facebookmail.com. And it says, in effort to make your online experience safer and more enjoyable, Facebook will be implementing a new login system, and all they're trying to do is grab your information. Some people won't fall for it. Some people will. We want to make you sure that you're aware that this stuff happens. So this is an image of the phishing email, which is how many people and their accounts are being compromised. The threat number two is significant loss of productivity when it comes to social media. Time wasted. 39% of employees are spend during work business hours less than an hour, and you see the little chart that we put in there. 3% of employees are spending 10 plus hours during business hours. I don't know what they're doing. Probably not working at all. Contributing to these percentages are social media networks. The winners of the time loss warp are Tumblr is a big one. Facebook is 52%. Twitter 17%. Instagram is 11%, and Snapchat is 4%. How do you protect against that and protect the loss of productivity from your employees because social media is so addictive? It's simple. Don't allow them to go online for social media when they're working. And only select few employees should be able to go online during that time. And you should be able to block that through your firewall and devices. Remember this, don't mess with our food. This is a Burger King worker who, through social media, stood on two big pails of lettuce and posted it. Obviously, he lost his job, but it was bad PR. People remember the scandal, and it sticks around. So be aware of social media, what's happening with it. Another big security threat is called ransomware. Some of our clients have been affected by that. And what ransomware is basically a way for criminals to be able to log into your machine, encrypt all your data, and then this message shows up and says that all your files have been encrypted, and in order for you to get the decryption key, you have to pay them a ransom, and that's why it's called ransomware. It's on the rise. The last time the FBI looked at it, they did $50 million the first month they opened up as a company. Think about that, $50 million as a company in 1 month. And this still happens daily. They're not asking for too much money, and the FBI doesn't have the resources to go after them. That's sort of what's happening in the cyber world right now. Sensitive data in the wrong hands is used to extort money. And whether being they're taking your info and selling it or hijacking your info and making you pay for it. Some of you may have experienced this. So be aware of that and use best practices. And we'll go into what you should do. I mean, we're talking about all the negatives now. We're going to talk about the positive and what you should do. Shadow IT. Shadow IT is a security threat. Do not always start with malware. So in other words, security threat doesn't always start with an email that you received that you clicked on by mistake or a website that you want to, that's sneaking their way into your system. Sometimes they can begin with an application downloaded, an application that you use regularly, like Dropbox. Your information is in Dropbox. Well, 7 million Dropbox passwords been hacked, and they went in and got all your info because they had your passwords. Know who you're dealing with, know their level of security, and know what they're telling you and how they are able to secure your data. If you're going to entrust your data, make sure it's entrusted and it's in good hands. If you use a Android device, all the criminals would like to thank you because Android is the most hacked mobile operating devices out there, and that number keeps rising. Because it's easy to use and it's very friendly and it's open, it's hacked the most. I think if Windows had the share that Android does, Windows will be hacked the most. Apple is the most secure one because it's on the Apple devices only, and it's a very closed system. But Android is an open system, which makes it easier for hackers, but also makes it easier for IT professionals to make the apps work better. And how many of you guys that have those devices use them to access your company emails? How about your employees? How many of you have your passwords on your phone? Do you have a remove or kill switch if you lost your phone with all your information on it? All that information is important to know, and it's important to know that the danger of the security out there and what you need to be aware of. If a device is stolen, is lost or stolen, and the data was not encrypted, so you could encrypt your data on your mobile devices, and you should. But if it's not encrypted, you may have violated a New York data breach law. So in New York, where we live, personal information is considered a person's first name or first initial, last name, a combination of a driver license, a social security number, or any information including login and password related to financial records, PHI records, credit card, access code, password, etc. This happened in a small breach which cost them $50,000 because of a HIPAA violation for hospice of North Dakota. Just want to let you know that mobile computing, anything that leaves your office, whether being laptop is a mobile computing, right? Anything that leaves your office and moves with you should be encrypted. That way, if you lose it, you just lost a laptop. No data on it will ever be compromised. It's important to know that, and it's important to know the difference. We're not saying don't use it, just be aware of it. Spam is, everybody gets spam. Some get less than others, depending on the system that you have to strip the spam out. But spam remained the single biggest driver of big breaches today. If we look at some of the biggest data breaches in recent memory, JP Morgan, Target, RSA Security come to mind. They all began with one poisoned email. Somebody clicked on it, we spread malware across, and gave the thieves, because that's what they are, the thieves, information out there. This is a good book called Spam Nation that really explains that and how to protect yourself. So we recommend that. Now talk about the Internet of Things. That's where the future is going. The future is going where every single device, not only your laptop, your desktop, and your mobile devices are connected to the internet, but soon enough, every appliance, lock, car, elevator, smoke detector, video camera, even cattle and pets, soldiers, televisions, prisoners will have an IP. Everybody will have an IP associated with them. We'll know where they are, what they're doing. Every physical device will be IT enabled. And if you're IT enabled, you can get hacked. And if you're able to get hacked, well, then they can find their way to get that information so they can sell it and make money. The Internet of Things will become the Internet of Things to be hacked, basically. So right now, currently, with the IP version 4, this is what the Internet is running on. It's called IPv4. We can have up to 4.295 around billion devices attached to the Internet at any one time. That's the limitation of it. However, with IP version 6, which is coming out now, it's actually available now in Windows, we're going to have 78 octillion. This is the number. It's basically a much bigger number that I can pronounce, but this will allow for every device to be connected to the internet. This is basically saying that version 4 of IP is the size of a golf ball, and when version 6 comes out, it'll be the size of the sun. So that's the difference. This is how many more devices we'll be able to have connected to the internet. That makes security that much more important to be focused on, so you don't get hacked and you don't compromise your information and your client's information, because they rely on you by giving you that info that you're going to secure it for them. So we talked about all the negatives and why it's happening. We talked about how it's happening, but what can you do to better protect yourself? And that's really the whole idea of this webinar, is to give you some feedback on what you need to do right away to be able to protect yourself. So some recommendations of the must-haves to keep you safe. Control what website employees are accessing. Have that in place. Don't allow them to go anywhere that they want to go. They are not doing it on purpose. They may click on the wrong link, but you're putting yourself in jeopardy. Lock down the use of third-party cloud apps like Dropbox and other third-party cloud apps. Know where your data is. Implement the mobile device policy and security protocol. Make sure that all your mobile devices are encrypted. Know what they can go on and what they can go on from their mobile device as well. Force passwords that are difficult to hack. Now, passwords used to say, well, make it more than 8 characters and have different characters, uppercase, number, or what have you. That is kind of changed, and they're saying have it more than 16 characters long, but it doesn't have to have all the different ones. It could be one long sentence. I like to go to the beach, or whatever it may be. That will be a lot harder to hack than a smaller password. Back up all your systems properly, because if you do get hacked, if you do get CryptoLocker, if we could go back to a backup where CryptoLocker was not affected, was not in effect yet, and you don't have to pay that ransom. So there's ways around it. So protect against a number of threats is to have a good backup system in place. Not only backup, but also disaster recovery. We'll cover that a little bit in the future, in the next slides. Employees' education is key. Have a good AUP. Make sure the employees know what to do and what not to do. Talk about it so they're more aware. Like you're doing today, you're learning from what we're presenting, and take that back to them. So this webinar is being recorded and will be available for you guys to share with everybody else. Lock down the ability for employees to use home PCs and devices to access your network and cloud application unless properly secured. Make sure that your network accessible from outside is properly secured. Make sure you know how the security works, and make sure employees that work remotely are doing it the right way. So we'll talk about what you could do here. So everybody has a firewall, but not all firewalls are created equal. Have a good solid UTM, which stands for Unified Threat Management. It's more than just a firewall, not just a random security software or firewall that you have. Make sure that with a UTM, you could have IPS. IPS stands for Intrusion Prevention System. It lets you know if somebody is trying to hack you, and it will stop that from happening on its own. Just to let you know, that happened with Target. And with Target, they did have an IPS, and it did stop them from being able to grab that information. But because it happened during Christmas time, the CEO decided that open everybody back up and try to do it while we're working. Well, they were not successful, and that's why they lost so many records. And that's why the CEO lost his job. Activate DLP on your firewall. Most firewalls have those on them, but they're not active because when you activate them, it slows down your internet speed a little bit. Not a lot, just a little. But I prefer a little slower internet and buy a faster internet to compensate than to have an open, to not be secured enough. DLP stands for Data Loss Protection, and it stops internal threats from being able to send anything out. In other words, if you downloaded something and they're going to take your information and send it outside your network, DLP will stop that from happening. IPS stops it from coming in. Try to block every open port if possible. Sometimes you have applications that requires open port and you can't get around that. But think about anything that you're getting yourself into from different applications and different services out there that if they require open ports, think about it twice. And obviously keep your maintenance current on your firewall. That's important. A lot of people don't. And they say, well, why do I need maintenance? It never went down. Well, it's not about that. It's about updating the definitions and making sure that the firewall is up to par. And having it monitored 24/7. A lot of people on the call today are our clients, so they have some of that. But we have quite a few people on there are not. So welcome, and I hope that you find this beneficial. But make sure that you have your network and your firewall monitored 24/7. Next is your antivirus, malware, and spam. This is the bare minimum. If you're going to do one thing, obviously, besides the firewall, make sure you have antivirus, malware, and spam in place. It will not stop hacks or attacks from happening, but it will stop some of them. It won't stop all of them. Antivirus is not malware. So if you have a malware, which is pop-ups and things that happens, they are keyloggers. They track that information, but they're not viruses. So viruses don't, antivirus software does not stop them. But they take that information and send them to somebody else that can use it to hack you later, or hack you directly through the malware. Obviously, depends on the malware. And spam protection, obviously, is not, antivirus can't stop you from spam. You need protection for that. You have to make sure that that's updated on a daily basis because that changes all the time. Remember, 80,000 malware is released on a daily basis. And do a scan every week. Maybe on Friday night, your IT provider should be able to help you with that. They'll scan your network just to make sure the real-time protection didn't miss anything. And again, make sure it's monitored 24/7, 365. It's key. Let's talk about mobile device management. Well, if you have mobile devices, if you reach your network and you have your email and on your mobile device, you should have mobile device management enabled. If you don't, and if you're a client as well and you don't, please call us and we'll explain it to you and get in more detail. But basically, it's a proactively secure your mobile device. Dynamic security and compliance features will do certain things like if you have your email, and you lost your mobile device, we could auto wipe your device. You could encrypt your device, because if you do lose it, then nobody can actually get that information out because it's encrypted. They'll have to know your password, but if they take that chip out and actually try to plug it in to take your info, it will be encrypted, and the info will be all grumbled up, and they'll be able to understand it. You'll be able to detect and restrict jailbroken cell phone, because jailbroken cell phones doesn't have any security at all. So it actually becomes a bigger risk for your company. You'll be able to remotely locate and lock and wipe any stolen devices, including laptops. Think about if you lost a laptop. There's 12,000 laptops stolen daily in the United States. Well, if you have some key information in there, if you have some PHIs in there, if you have some credit card numbers in there, or whatever you may have, and somebody stole your laptop, you're in trouble. If you have all that information in there and your laptop is encrypted and somebody stole it, you're not in trouble, because they just stole a laptop. Just like they can't get your data out. It's impossible for them to do it. The mobile device management lab with select wipes, because a lot of people will use their own personal cell phone and have their company email on it and maybe some files on it. Well, it's still their cell phone though. So if they lost it, or if they're no longer with the company, you don't want to completely wipe the cell phone, because you don't want to delete grandma's pictures, but you do want to delete the stuff that belongs to you, and you're able to do that through mobile device management. It also will create a geo-fence with rules to be enforced. So in other words, if you walk in through our facility, I don't want you to be able to go online. So Wi-Fi disabled. I don't want the camera to be enabled so you can't take pictures of stuff. Mobile device management allows you that capability on those mobile devices. It's important to consider that. It's important to put that in play if you're using your mobile devices for work. And it makes you compliant, because then you could use it for work. Then you don't have to worry about it, because if it's encrypted and you have somebody monitor it 24/7 and is able to stop it from happening, it's automated and you're securing your network. Next is BDR. BDR stands for Backup and Disaster Recovery. Everybody says they have backup, right? Everybody talks about their backup, and everybody talks about their how they know they back up every night, and they get an email telling them it's good and what have you. But do they take that information off site? But if you have a disaster and it happens, what does that mean? That means you have to fix the server that just went down and wait for the restore to happen. Well, that may take a day or two, sometimes 3, depending on the amount of data that you have, and you're down without working. A disaster recovery solution is actually an appliance that sits on site and images your entire infrastructure, images every server that you have. And if one of those servers goes down, we can go to that appliance and say, you now become the server. Within 20 minutes or so, you're back up and running until we fix that server and get you whole, and then do a bare metal restore back onto that server. But at least you were not down for a few days. Consider that. That makes you a lot more, makes your network highly available, and it makes you a lot more flexible. And if you do have something like happen, like a ransomware, you can go through the BDR and go to a date where you did not have ransomware and come back up to life while we get rid of and reformat your machine and make sure that we remove ransomware from it without having to pay the fine. A lot of people paid the fine. Obviously, they did $50 million in 1 month, including the LA police department, because they got hacked, and they had to pay the fine because they did not have good enough disaster recovery appliances in place. Back up everything. Back up every laptop that you have. Not every single one, but back up every single important one. In other words, the owners, the office manager, the physician, if they save stuff locally, make sure all that stuff is backed up. Because if it's not on the server, it's usually not backed up. And test it. Test it weekly. Test for catastrophic failure. Have a true disaster recovery plan in place for every aspect of your business. Make sure that if you're ever down and all your infrastructure is down, how are you going to function? Think about that. Think about even functioning without the technology, and how can you function on paper for a short period of time. Obviously, with a disaster recovery appliance, you don't have to worry about that too much. But make sure that it's monitored, again, 24/7. Let's talk about encryption. We talked about encryption. Encryption is basically a mathematical computation that if you look at this little graph that we have, is basically right here. This is your information. It sends out, it encrypts it via an encryption key. That key resides on the PC that's going to read it, and it decrypts it for you to be able to see it. So hello goes across encrypted. If anybody stops it in the middle, it looks like this. It makes no sense to them. They can't read it. They can't use it. So encryption is key. So encrypt every hard drive. Every device that leaves your office must be encrypted. It's actually a HIPAA requirement. A lot of people don't do it because there's a cost to it, but the cost is really not high. It's about $150 per device. It's not a monthly fee. It's a one-time fee. It's a yearly fee, but it's important to do that. It's important to have it. Encrypt your backups. Not only encrypt your devices, but your actual backups should be encrypted, especially if you're using hard drives to back up. Make sure that's encrypted when you leave the office with them. Encrypt your small USB devices, that your memory stick that you put in your computer. A lot of people don't encrypt those. I'll give you an example. We were in a security seminar, and there was an FBI specialist there, and they were talking about how hackers are thinking of going in and trying to get your information. And what they would do is they would leave USB devices onto somebody's front door, like somebody dropped it, and they would have like a Microsoft logo on it, whatever else. And people would walk by and find the USB device, and what the first thing they do when they find a USB device is plug it in to see what's on it. Man, I found a gigabyte device or an 8 gig device. This is great. Well, as soon as they do that, what does that mean? That means that whatever spyware was on there has been infested throughout your network. Now they have all your information that they need because you activated it. And yes, they give you a free flash drive to do it. They call that marketing. And it's important to be aware of that and educate your employees about that. If you find something, don't just use it. Don't just plug it into your network. Your network is for business. Your network is basically your network, not for them to try something on. If they found something and they like it, tell them to go home and try it on their machine at home, because if it breaks something, at least it doesn't break your infrastructure. There is an app that I wanted to share with you guys. It's a personal security tool. It's called Eyewitness. And if you walk at night late, if you are and you activate this app before you leave your office, and it basically is it gets armed. If you get hit from behind, the app will auto text call 911 and will do a large sound that will scare somebody that is trying to rob you. It also sends a geo-track information of where you are. I have a daughter, so that's why I put it in there. It's important for me. I have a son as well. That's on his machine, on his iPhone. So if he leaves, if he goes somewhere, it basically, you can't overwrite this. It's an app that gets active, and once it's active, you're the only one that will have to enter a password to overwrite it. So they can't really get that away from you. It could be protective, and we were talking about security in general. I wanted to share that information with you guys. The bottom line is you need to get serious about protecting your company against cybercrime. It's everywhere. It's happening, and it's really happening in the small and medium-sized environment because they're low-hanging fruits, because they don't go above and beyond, because they're like, well, why should I buy this router and firewall for $800 when I can find one for $300? Well, The one for 300 does not have IPS and DLP. The one for 800 does. This is what we're talking about. The bottom line is you need to get serious about it and consider it. So what can you do is 3 simple steps for your organization to protect yourselves. Number 1, threat assessment. What's lacking in your security right now? How are your employees using your company's own devices or their devices? If they have your company information on it. What third-party cloud application are you using? What are your systems truly backed up? Do you have disaster recovery in place? Where are you exposed to the risks? Whose job is it to make sure your network is protected? And how do you know if they're doing their job? It's important to do that. So number 1 to do is a threat assessment. Number 2 is to create an action plan from the assessment. So based on what's discovered, what do we need to do to ensure our systems and data and operations are secured from thefts, compromise, and corruptions? You put a plan together. If you don't have encryption, the plan is to implement encryption. If you don't have disaster recovery, the plan is to implement disaster recovery. It's important to at least start. And then ongoing maintenance. Step 3 is to have ongoing maintenance. It's 24/7, making sure that somebody is looking at your info, and our clients that are logged in will understand what we're doing here. You definitely don't want to take set it and forget it approach. I did it, so I'm all set. It needs to be monitored because attackers don't do it once. They come at you from a multi-pronged approach. So what we're offering here is the first step is free. At no cost or obligation, we'll come to your office and conduct a threat assessment, where we'll perform an external vulnerability scan for you to see if you have any open ports or if anybody can reach you from the outside. We'll check your antivirus, spam, and anti-malware, and make sure that you have it and it's active. We'll test your backup and disaster recovery plan. We'll check your encryption on all your devices. We'll read and check your AUP for your employees. We'll supply you with a report for all our findings. So first step is free. And after that, the action plan, obviously, you decide what you're going to do and what's good for your company. We're also going to give everybody that joined us today, and we want to thank everybody that came on, the 7 critical security measures every business must put in place now with mobile computing. This is a white paper that we wrote, and everybody that signed up will get this white paper for free. It really explains a lot of detail, and the whole idea here is educational. We're just trying to give you the education that you need to understand what you can do from your perspective to be secure. So 3 things you need to know. Number 1, we can only work with 5 organizations for free. So we're giving those away for the step 1 is free, but for only 5 people. It's because of the amount of time it takes us to do it. If you're going to sign up, please sign up quickly. There's absolutely no obligation to buy after we give you the threat assessment. It's important to know that. And this is a buy application only, so I want to make sure that I can actually help you before we book a consultation with you. So you do have to sign up, and you can sign up by going to mvpworks.com/7critical. There's a form there. The first 5 will get the free consultation. Everybody else will obviously reach out to you and help you out, but the consultation will not be free. Sorry, no exception. It's just a matter of time here. That's all. So it's important to know that this is what we're offering for you guys, and I hope that you found this beneficial, and that we give you enough information to know what you need to do from your perspective. So go back, sign up, and everybody that signed up will get the white paper, the 7 critical measures to protect the mobile devices white paper, and then we'll work with you moving forward. Now, I hope you understood why criminals do it. I hope you understood why and how they do it. We try to give you as much information as possible and try to jam it in a 45-minute webinar and give you that information as much as we can. Please understand that this webinar is also going to be recorded, like we said in the past, and we'll send an email out so you can download that recording and view it at any time. I want to thank everybody that came in today. I want to hope that you found this beneficial. We will have other webinars. The next webinar is coming up. They fill up quick, so we had some people that we had to tell that they'll have to just watch the video, is because they fill up quick. So the next time, please sign up early so that you could reserve your seat. I want to thank you very much.